Life is not a random accident? What? Success is not a random accident? Life is not a lottery?
Welcome to the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
Come on, there's gotta be those big overnight successes that we all talk about. Hey everybody, welcome back to SalesChatter. Today I wanted to talk to you about something that I think hits home for a lot of people, but also something that I think a lot of people have a disproportionate view on. And what I mean by that is, it's the idea of this big break, the idea of, success is, it comes to us in leaps and bounds, and success is kind of that overnight thing that happens, right? We see a lot of these sales reps where they're wickedly successful. They have tons of business, and it's like, oh my God, they just got that in 2 seconds. And the fact is they didn't. And so today I want to debunk, if you will, a couple of things about big breaks, about success being a random accident, and, life being a lottery and lottery wins. And what I mean by that is we're going to kind of take a step back for a moment. And I've written down some ideas here because I really want to make sure I provide you value and get you really thinking about this in a different way. Okay, so let's talk about the idea of a big break, right? That golden goose of a client, if you will. I can recall and still, even after 25 years in the business, when I did my last RFP, so just for transparency's sake, my last big RFP was about 6 years ago. After that, I stopped doing them. And I'll tell you, even getting that last RFP, it was a massive one. And I remember going in and doing everything that I knew to do to win an RFP, right? Asking what it was for, asking all the questions that I thought were relative to that RFP, and then going in and rating rating about 1,600 lanes that equated to probably 2,700 loads a year, 2,800 loads a year, huge volume, right? Most of you are thinking in your head right now, game-changing volume, right? And I remember on a Friday getting an email say I was number one on over 1,800 loads a year. And I went home that night just on cloud nine, right? And I couldn't help, even after years in the industry and knowing, Dan, you should never do this, I couldn't help thinking, what am I going to spend the money on? Like, how is this going to change my life? What is it going to do? And to come in Monday morning and get the email that, I'm sorry, we've decided to go with the incumbent. They were a little bit higher, but we know them instead of you, right? And this was that idea of the golden goose, right? The idea that, one client is going to make or break my life. And that's a lottery win in our industry. And I've been thinking about it so much, and especially in the course of this year and what's been happening in our industry. And I start realizing that these golden geese, these golden geese that we tend to have aren't really golden geese, because what happens when we lose them? But more importantly than that, and I don't really want to get on that topic because that's not what this show is about, but was that golden goose a random accident? Was it an overnight success? Was it a lottery win? And let's take a step back for a minute. And even if I got that business, was it a lottery win? And I started analyzing that because it's a big question that I started asking myself, like, was this I was just in the right place at the right time? And then I go back through and I look and I say, I've bailed this customer out 100 times. I've helped them with over 300 loads in 2 years. Okay, just LTL loads, like nothing major, no massive volume that a lot of you talk about. And trust me, I speak to a lot of salespeople every day. And the majority of them I say, well, who's your ideal client? Oh, I want one that ships like 15 times a week, 20 times a week, and I can make $300 profit per load. That's Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, if you have a 5-star client and they do intermodal, rail, OTR, air, warehousing, sure, those types of margins I believe are available. I think in today's market, with the saturation, with what's happening, to expect to make $300, $400, $500 a load and still maintain, 15, 20, 30 loads a week, I think you're dreaming in Technicolor, to be honest with you. And by all means, I'm sure there's some people out there that are doing it, but for the most part, people aren't. Right? Customers are very aware of market conditions. They're very aware of rates in the market. And you got to be adding some serious value to be making that kind of coin on freight. Now, one-offs, don't get me wrong. I was a big in pharmaceuticals, and I would base my margins on what the client needed. Is it a $2 million skid that has pharmaceuticals? Is it temperature controlled? Is it in-transit recordings? Is it what is it? What is the actual supply chain security that I need on it? And my profit would be based on that. And if I would lose the load because I wanted to make $3,000 profit because I had $2 million at stake, I had huge claims at stake, if they didn't want to give me the load, then so be it. I wouldn't take the freight, because I do believe wholeheartedly your profit has to be based on what it is you're bringing to the table for this client. So, I used to believe that these RFPs were game changers, and I'm sure you've all been there, right? You've got it, you've looked at the volume, you've looked at the rates, and you can't help but think, what am I going to do with this money when I win, right? And so that's the golden goose that I don't believe exists, because for the most part, even if you win an RFP, there is still that effort and energy that you have to put in every day to get up to those volumes. I know people in the industry, they literally have one client and they're doing millions of dollars in GP a year and making $1 million, $2 million in their pocket a year with one client. Now, that works for them. To me, that would keep me up every night, all night long. Because what if? Right? Markets change. Shit happens. Things happen. There's people in corporations doing things that are completely out of your control. You could be the best logistics coordinator on the planet, the best salesperson on the planet, the best anything. You could move freight with meticulous actions that drive huge results. But somebody on the other end of the company is doing something stupid which bottoms out the company. So we have no control in that. So for me, I look at it and I say, life is not a lottery. It's not. Getting these clients is not a lottery. It's your consistent actions day in and day out. And I look back at this client and I said, it wasn't a lottery. It was the fact that I was there for 2 years, breaking my back to make sure they got what they needed. And that's why I got the opportunity to be where it was. So, I guess in, the idea of the big break, to finalize that one idea before I move on to the second and third, is I don't believe that you should be thinking about the big break. Think about the small things that are going to build that momentum, build that credibility, build your brand at a company, build the image that you have, and help your client achieve the same things, build their brand credibility and image. Every small thing adds up to the big break, right? We hear it more and more. Hard work negates luck. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard, right? So all of these things, I think we really need to start thinking in a different perspective as a logistics sales professional. And I really think that if we do, we have all the power to change this industry for the better. So that's my number one. Number two, hard work and education negate luck. For me, this is a steadfast belief. No comment, no one individual, no multiple individuals is going to shatter this belief that I have. Hard work negates luck. Now, I added that education in there because I do believe if you work hard doing the wrong things, you're never going to get to where you are. So it's education. And I know I've said this before, but I'll say it again for y'all. If you guys decide cold calling is my method of prospecting, then you owe it to your future, you owe it to your family, you owe it to the people that count on you to get a hell of a lot better at cold calling. If you're going to do emails, right? A lot of people say email's dead. Email's not dead. You just have to get insanely good at emails. You have to get insanely good at subject lines. You have to get insanely good at delivering on the promise of an email, or else you're shooting in the dark and you have no idea if you're hitting your targets. But that's where hard work and education come in that negate luck. I don't know if there is such a thing as luck. Now, there is something to be said about being in the right place at the right time, specifically in logistics. If I had a colleague that I used to work across the hall from, and I remember him saying, Dan, I'll never leave the office on Fridays. And I'm like, why? You don't want like a long weekend? He goes, no. He goes, Fridays is when people drop the ball. And if I'm in the right place at the right time, I can pick up a good 3 to 4 customers a year. So 1 customer a quarter is what he was averaging simply by being in the office and making his calls on a Friday afternoon. Because that's when people drop the ball, right? People get lazy. People get, complacent, I guess, for lack of a better word. And they start just, leaving. Okay, everything's in order. And I've been there. I've done it. I used to think there was a badge, a merit badge, if I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning helping a customer solve problems. And man, I'm available 24/7. And I was like, this is bullshit. It's because I don't do my job during the day that I'm up all night dealing with these fucking issues that I shouldn't be dealing with. And so that education piece for me turned that around. And I would much rather work harder between the golden hours so I can enjoy my evenings more. Right? It's not a badge. It's not hey, listen, if you need to be there for your customers, if you're in automotive and you're kind of doing the 24/7, 365 thing, I get that. I've done it. But it's not what moves the needle. The ability to work hard and to do what you need to do, the mundane tasks that tend to lead to nothing for some days, weeks, even months, create those big breaks that you see. Right? There's no silver bullet in this industry. And I'm sure a lot of you at this point in the industry, at this point in the year, I know we're only, actually February 29th, which is pretty cool. And you look at this and you say, holy shit, it's a shit show out there. Because it is. But I bet you there was that silver bullet, the perspective of a silver bullet during COVID. Because if you had a truck, you had freight. Right? But yet, I stop and I say to myself, what have you done to get better and better over time during the good times? Because I do believe people that are steadfast in their education, steadfast in their growth, regardless of what's happening in the industry, good times, bad times. Like, here's a fact. We're going to be in good times again. That's the way this industry goes. It's the way every industry goes. There's ebbs and flows. That's, it's part of life. You have ebbs and flows in your life. Some days in life are really good. Some days in life are really bad. Some days in life you have no things that you're facing, and other days in life you have shit that's literally making you contemplate your entire existence. We all do. Anyone who says they don't, I believe they'll lie to you about anything else as well. So be very careful. But we all go through these things. We all have ebbs and flows in our lives. And, it's the conundrum that you have with quantum leaps. It's the conundrum that you have with personal development. Right? 1 out of 10 people say personal development's bullshit because they try it for 2 weeks and it doesn't do anything. Or they're told they can get all these amazing results simply by reading a book. But nobody really dives deep and says, okay, you need to read the book, then you need to read it again, then you need to digest, and you need to live the practices for an extended period of time before results happen. And unfortunately, this is more of a marketing thing. It's marketed as, it's hoity-toity, rose-colored glasses and Pollyanna and all this other shit. But it works. Change your mindset. The things in your daily life change. Do they change today? You can change your mindset in minutes and feel better about yourself. But does that mean that your next sales call is going to result in landing a multi-million-dollar client? No. If it does, it's because you've worked on it for months before. Okay, so there is no silver bullet. This often, when it comes to this silver bullet thing, I'm often reminded, I don't know if you ever saw the Netflix movie, The King. It's the story of Ronnie Coleman. Ronnie Coleman, the greatest Mr. Olympia that's ever walked the face of the earth. And it's interesting because he talks about, and I know there's, you look at the idea of Mr. Olympia, you look at the, of course, the whole steroid things come up. But in the interview with Ronnie, he said, I was natural for so much of my life. I worked hard, I dedicated myself. He goes, but I was tired of getting my ass kicked. So I started doing steroids. And I remember the interviewer saying, okay, but, did you work any less hard? He goes, no, I worked harder. So that wasn't a silver bullet. He still had to put in hours a day. Now, was it an enhancement? Sure. And I think a lot of us look for that pill. A lot of us look for that silver bullet. And then we get frustrated. We get angry. We almost get disconnected because it doesn't exist. And it's an interesting phenomenon that I really think you should really look at, is the idea that no matter what you do, there is still a massive amount of work that goes with it. And I know I'm beating on this because the fact is our culture idolizes the big breaks. Our culture idolizes the lottery wins. We'll be talking about it tomorrow on the show, but the Slight Edge talks about, why is it you don't hear about Warren Buffett winning the lottery? Because Warren Buffett doesn't play the lottery. He knows it's the small things every day that lead up to the big things. And don't get me wrong, it's a hell of a lot sexier and it's such a better story. They say, oh yeah, it was this and then this happened and oh my God, it just blew up and it was massive. Of course it is, because nobody wants to hear, well, yeah, I had to make 100 sales calls or send 100 emails a day. I had to, educate myself an hour a day at how to get better at it. I had to objective handling better. I had to use my tonality better. I had to understand people better. I had to learn human psychology. I had to do, and I don't want to do all that. I want to come into the office. I want to be shown the Porsches in the parking lot, and I want that next week, because we're an instantaneous society. And don't get me wrong. Listen, everything I'm sharing with you, I've lived. When I walked into this industry, there was a Porsche in the parking lot, an M3 or an M5 in the parking lot. There was Mercedes in the parking lot. And I was a 17-year-old kid, and I'm like, I want that today. How do I get that tomorrow? And that was my question to everybody. How do I get that tomorrow? And everybody's like, well, this is what you do. It didn't happen tomorrow. Sure, did it happen within about a year and a half? Yes. But my consistency was insane. I mean, I was in what was called the pit. Okay, which is pretty much, if you've ever seen the movie Boiler Room, that's what it was. And I remember grabbing my phone off the desk. Yes, folks, way before this thing, it was a phone with a cord, and we used to have this curly thing on the end of the phone, which was called another cord. And then the way to stop it from actually tying up on you was there was a little adapter that had a spindle thing on it, and anyways, I won't even get into it, but I'm aging myself. I remember grabbing that and going under my desk to make sales calls, because the boys were throwing a football in the pit, and it was hitting desks and crashing, and it was loud, and it was insane. But that dedication to the small things, and I didn't even know what it was at that time. It's not like I had figured this out. It's that dedication to those small things allowed me to become successful. So in closing, here's a couple of things I'd really like you to think about. If you're a manager, understand this. It's your team's small things every day. They might not be getting the results you want today, but if you think results come instantaneously in today's market, you are really disconnected from the market. So I suggest you start learning about the new market today, because we all know it, and it's no hit against you as a manager or an owner or whatever. But if you don't understand the market, you're expecting things to happen in a market that's not going to allow them to happen. So you really need to check yourself and educate yourself, right? It's that consistent action and education that's going to help you be the best you can be. That's number one. Number two, if you're a sales rep and you're not finding results, please, please, please do your best to maintain your positivity and just keep doing the things that you know is going to get results in the end. Because when the market shifts, you're going to be in a position to accept and bring in the windstorm of clients that are coming your way. And it's not because you were there at that time, it's because of the work you're putting in now, right? Every single bottom market creates multi-millionaires in every industry. But it's not the people that just happen to be there. It's people that bust their ass in this market during this time that win. That's the message. There is no random accident. There is no life-changing lottery. It's hard work, dedication, consistent education, and bringing your next level higher and higher and higher and higher. I don't care where you are right now. You have 10 rungs minimum above you that you can get to. I hope this message serves you. I hope this message gets you thinking. And I hope this message truly changes your perspective on what you're doing day in and day out. Until next time, my friends, remember, go out there, make every call educational, and crush your sales. We'll see you soon. Take care.